This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
Welcome to another show of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi with Crescent City Retirement Group, and we want to thank you so much for joining us this Sunday morning. We have a special guest this morning that we're excited about. But before we get to our guest, I'd like to just thank our fabulous co-host. We absolutely couldn't do this show every week without him. So, Tony, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show once again, Anthony. This is going to be a good one. I know you've landed a couple of really great special guests. A huge get for the show. I'm excited about this one. A couple of surprises for our listeners out there. And yeah, it's going to be a great one. I've had a great week. My youngest daughter graduated from high school. Today is my 30th wedding anniversary. And we've got two great special guests. So, wow, what a week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, we appreciate Ernst being on the show with us this morning. You know, a lot of our listeners out here, Tony, are small business owners, and you know, we want to offer the best advice we can out there, and so Ernst and David are going to be our special guests today. Really just talking about some of the challenges that our small business owner listeners may be facing.
Yeah, and I think small business, there's a lot of business owners out there, small, very small independent operators up to some medium-sized businesses, and this is very helpful. We get a lot of those folks listening to the show, so I think it's good to talk about what's going on out there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Ernst and introduce him to our listeners, Anthony?
Absolutely. So Ernst brings over 40 years of business management and leadership experience he gained while working in a variety of management and C-suite positions around the world in the oil and gas industry, which we're all too familiar with here in South Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
While trained as an engineer, he possesses balance between hard and soft skills. He came to New Orleans in 1998, working in the deep water division of Shell Upstream USA. Realizing the value of his business experience to small business owners, he formed the Alternative Board New Orleans Northwest in 2020. He now enjoys helping local business owners improve their businesses in ways that enrich their personal lives. So really, Ernst, before the show, Tony, we talked about that and really balance, which I'm going to be looking forward to hearing about.
Yeah.
But really balance between our personal lives and our business lives are also a real, stress, a point
Sure.
that Ernst is going to be discussing with us. So we're really looking forward to hearing from him this morning.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So, Ernst, welcome to the show. First of all, thanks for taking time to be with us today.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, Anthony, where do we want to begin? I know you have some questions for Ernst.
I do. So, Ernst, to just get us started, in your you work with business owners all over the area. In your interaction with these business owners, what are you hearing? What are you hearing out there?
I think the first thing I would say is the job is not as advertised. So people start their own businesses, and then they find that it's actually probably tougher than they thought it would be, because you really have to be a jack of all trades, and sometimes hard to find advice. It also can be very lonely. Think about how a small business owner typically starts. You're good at a trade. You bring in some colleagues. You start a company. and then all of a sudden you have to grow that company, or you want to grow that company. And where do you get that advice from? You never learned from it. And that's sort of the jack of all trades syndrome that kicks in. Where do I get that information? Where do I go for advice?
Right. So kind of like blueprints. I mean, you might be good at a trade. You might be good at whether it be something that you're, an invention you may have had, or some type of something skill set that you possess, but you now have to, establish a business, build a business, grow a business. And so, so those blueprints, I guess, is what you're saying, huh, Ernst?
Yeah. People really haven't learned how to get up into the ranks. And how do I make something from a 2 or 3 person company to your aspiration, which might be a 10-person company? How do you do that?
The whole idea, I guess, of scale.
Yeah, scaling, and then also the fact that you probably thought this was going to be fun and a great balance between your personal aspirations and the business outcomes. And now all you see yourself is working 80 hours a week, and that's not for something you signed up for. But there is no out. You are the business.
So let me ask you this, Ernst. Where can business owners typically go for help? I mean, like as you say, maybe they don't have an MBA. We have great skills in certain areas, or have a great product, a great service, but not necessarily a great, if you will, business owner. Mm-hmm. Or we want to be better. Where does somebody go for help?
Well, you first of all, you can go to subject matter experts. You can hire them, and they can do part of your business. But that's typically an expensive solution. That might not be the first one on the list. Although there are certain aspects of your business where outsourcing to a specialized company might be the right solution. The second one is, and you already mentioned it, MBAs. How do I train for being a business owner? Well, there is no formal training, but I guess an MBA gives you a holistic view on how everything works together. But that takes many years of your free time. So I already mentioned time being a constraint. How do you really get that to do that next to a 80-hour work week? The next thing actually is around, can I go to other business owners? Because they might have gone through the same issues. They might have experience that could be extremely valuable to you. Mm-hmm. And that's really where our segment comes in, around how business owners can help business owners.
Kind of like that whole iron sharpens iron.
Exactly. So if think about the larger companies, I think they figured it out. So if you're if you're the CEO of a large company, you have a board. That board is dedicated to help you being successful. Yeah, there are fiduciary rights of the boards as well, but the alignment between the CEO and the board is that it helps the company grow and get better at what it does. Wouldn't it be nice if small businesses have a same group of people that they trust, they know their business, and can help them solve these issues, just like a big board does? Mm-hmm. And that's one of the options you have as a business owner is maybe develop a group of other business owners that can help you solve issues. Well, 75% of the issues that business owners are dealing with are probably the same, independent of type of business. It's HR issues, it's finance issues, it's planning issues. You can learn from each other. That's the great opportunity that I see, and I would like to share with you this morning.
Right. So so great segue to the alternative board, which is your company, mm-hmm. And so the idea there is that these you match business owners together as a collaboration. To discuss all aspects of business, whether it be marketing, whether it be, as you say, personnel, time management, cash flow, all of the various. And I imagine there's some model built, or mm-hmm. And it's this board gets together and then I guess they have discussions about the issues that they're having. I mean, is that?
Yeah, I think in essence that's what it is. So there is another name for it. It's called CEO roundtables. But whether a business owner considers himself CEO, in fact he is. But it's around coming together, collectively solve problems of the individual members. Mm-hmm. So what we do every time we come together once a month, a business owner can bring in a subject. Says, the last 3 weeks, this is what happened. Cash flow management. How do I deal with it? Somebody around the table picks it up and says, well, I had that problem 2 years ago, and this is what I did. And, oh, by the way, I've read this book, and this is how it describes. So you actually physically go around the room and get advice from all the individual members of the board.
Let me ask you this. Is this board of business owners, are they in the same business, or is the business, relatively aligned, or it can be completely different businesses and industries altogether?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because how would you think if your biggest competitor is in the same board? You probably wouldn't give full account of your weaknesses, and that's the opportunity to learn is then therefore reduced. So the essence for us is that we have non-competing businesses in these boards. Mm-hmm. That gives you an opportunity to create a very safe environment where you know that your word is not going out on the street and used against you. But the other fundamental part is that 75% to 80% of the issues that a business owner is dealing with are the same, independent on the branch. So this is an opportunity to actually bring those two together, create a confidential environment in which you can freely talk about your issues. And in fact, you'll see that over time, when these boards mature, they become each other's trusted advisor. Mm-hmm. And they know.
I imagine they establish a relationship.
100%, yes. Mm-hmm. Strong relationships, yes.
Well, so Ernst, we have many small business owners as clients, and we help them with their tax planning. We help them with their retirement planning. Many small business owners, I guess to your point, with building and running a business, we don't have a blueprint. That's why I'm so happy to have you and David here, because you're really, speaking about the core of a business, which is how do you scale, how do you grow, how do you make it all it can be, and so really it fits really well with what we do for our business owners. And so the more we can learn from each other, and the stronger we can, make our businesses for our families, for our clients, the better we'll all be. So thank you so much for being with us this morning, Ernst.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Anthony, I don't know how you get these high-profile guests. It's a huge get to have David on the show. I'm going to tell you about David. Listeners, David Purvis is an experienced executive. He has over 36 years of experience in the international and U.S. oil and gas industry. And throughout his career, David held a variety of leadership and executive roles, emphasis on performance optimization, value creation, leadership development, organizational design, and technical assurance. And since you've retired, David, from the oil and gas industry, I know you've moved back here to New Orleans, and you spend your time coaching nonprofits in the area, teaching petroleum engineering at Mississippi State University, and now you coach small business owners through the Alternative Board, or TAB as it's known, TAB, the Alternative Board. And Anthony, I know you have a few questions about TAB for David. David, first of all, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
So thank you so much. Yeah, so we really do appreciate you being here, David, and any input or insights that we can bring to our listeners, our business owners out here that really are on the front lines. I mean, running a business is not for the faint at heart.
No,
it really is. And I mean, you've got employees, you've got issues with employees, you've got cash management, you've got marketing. What used to work, a year ago doesn't work today. You've got metrics you have to keep up with. What employees are helping and what are pulling are not pulling their weight. Supply chain issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. So we, our self-employed counterparts are on the front lines working hard, and so really that's what TAB, the alternative board, is all about. It's really just as we learned from Ernst earlier, is y'all pull business owners together, and you have this a board where we can all act as we're all CEOs of our businesses, and we can iron sharpens iron. We can learn from each other. But give us your overview of the alternative board and how you see that it's really making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. For us, it's not coming in to solve just a single business problem. Our approach is coach the business owner to improve the business, and through that, it changes their lives for the better. You heard Ernst talk about the peer advisory board. That's just one of the processes that we use. In addition, we do one-on-one coaching. Through the one-on-one coaching, we'll help them with what's your personal vision? Where do you see from your personal life 3, 5, 10 years? And then how does that align with what you want from the business? From that, we will start breaking it down into individual problems, issues, opportunities that we will address and hold ourselves accountable. Ernst and I, in a sense, we say we're small business owners too through the alternative board. And so we're living it with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. I heard a mentor of mine. I read a book of his, and I took a course, and he he talks about growing, but he used the analogy of a book. He said, how do you write a 400-page book? And he said, you don't write a 400-page book. You build a timeline, and you write maybe a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs a day, and at the end of 6 months you might have
right.
a 400-page book. And so it sounds to me like y'all are helping business owners build. So like you say, what's the end goal here? 3, 5, 10 years down the road, and then how do we get there?
It is, and it's like you said, it's creating that vision, defining your strategy, and exit may be a part of that strategy, but it's also making sure that you've got alignment once you've created that vision and that strategy, that you've got alignment within your organization. And we've got to set, in addition to the peer advisory board, the one-on-one coaching, we have tool sets that we work with the business owner to really kind of track progress, really define the goals and actions that you're going to take to meet the different elements of your strategy, and make sure that you're making progress on them. The worst thing you can do is write it down, pin it to the wall, and then never do anything about it.
Right. So let me ask you this. Obviously, all these all our businesses out here, whether you're in the dry cleaning business or the restaurant business or, financial services, tax planning, a retail store selling women's shoes. I mean, all of these businesses are so diverse, right? And so do you find, though, that the core principles are interchangeable?
Yeah, that's very interesting, particularly on the board sessions that I've sat in with Ernst. He's got a very diverse board of types of businesses. It's amazing how a problem gets put on the table by one of the board members, and someone in a completely different sector has the piece of advice that makes the difference. And
from a totally separate, different industry altogether.
Total different industry. And it's amazing to me also that as someone puts a problem on the table, I'll notice the other board members, the other members of the board, writing the answers down as well, and they'll make comments like, that wasn't my problem that I put on the table, but I've got a similar issue, and I can take the same advice back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So how often does the board meet?
As a group, the board will meet once a month. We also couple that with one-on-one coaching individually once a month. And so, the individual participant gets to see us twice a month. And, they can interact with each other outside of the board meetings. And as they grow together as a board, we find that they do.
Yeah, well, so what's interesting about, I in my reading, you have business coaches that you learn about, all over the world. I mean, I'm thinking of one firm that talks about, scale or fail is kind of their, their tagline. But, at the end of the day, I don't think, business coaching and best practices is anything new. I think that in terms of recognizing that it needs to happen, but what's unique about you guys is you're here, you're local, and I think that you do have a unique approach because you're bringing in local businesses and collaborating with these local businesses where a lot of these business coaches aren't even in our town.
And that's a great point, Anthony. For us, with the local aspect to it, you understand the market that we're in. You understand New Orleans and what it means to be a business owner in the city of New Orleans. What we're finding is, these business owners across the board, they want their business to succeed, but they also want, on the personal side,
have a life.
Yeah, have a life. They don't want to be consumed by it anymore. And we often ask them the question, if you had an extra 20 hours for yourself, what would you do? And some of them start
It
out
almost sounds like, I know a lot of people initially probably think it's just a big pipe dream. Okay, I'm gonna work half the time, and I'm gonna have a more successful business, and it's gonna run so efficiently, and it's gonna run like a clock, and I'm gonna have more time for myself, But so it almost doesn't even sound real, does it?
Absolutely, a lot of them have a hard time even envisioning that because they think they've got to do it all themselves, without the opportunity to step back and say, if I'm trying to do it all myself, I'm potentially the limiting factor because I only have so much time and so much capacity.
Before we wrap it up, and it's kind of just was going to lead me to my last question, but if you had to just, point out maybe the top 3 reoccurring, topics that seem to come up in these sections, in these segments that you have with these business owners, what would you say, some of the top 3 are that come up?
Yeah, top 3 is a challenge, but I'll give it a shot.
Go ahead.
I'm going to combine vision and strategy. What do you want your business to be? And then I get into time and money. Time often being personal time, and money, particularly when we talk about small business owners, a recurring one is very often cash management, cash flow management. They have good turnover, but they have peak and valleys, and surviving those valleys until your next big payment comes in.
Very good. Well, David, we really appreciate you joining us. Tony, do you have anything for David or Ernst?
Well, I really enjoyed having both of them on the show. Thank you for all the great information. I know this is really valuable info for our listeners out there, the small business owners. And how can they get a hold of you or find out more about the alternative board, David?
Thank you very much for that, Tony. You can reach Ernst or myself at our email addresses. I'm David at tabneworleansnw.com. Ernst is at ERNST at tabneworleansnw.com. If I may, there's one last piece. We've got actually a sample board. We call it a Taste of Tab, coming up on July 26th. If any of your listeners are interested in participating and seeing how an actual peer advisory board works in practice, contact either Ernst or I at our email address and register for the event. We'd love to show you how it works. You may actually bring a problem to the table and have people give you ideas on how to solve your problem.
So Taste the Tab on July 26th. As always, we really appreciate you tuning in. We hope that this segment with Ernst and David and Tab, the alternative board, has been helpful for you, especially you small business owners out there, and anything that we can do here at Crescent City Retirement Group to support our small business community, we're here for that. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to being with you again next week. Thank you so much. And if you don't have a formal retirement plan and you'd like to get a second opinion, by all means, please take advantage of our special offer.
All right, and that does it for today's episode of Retirement Keys with our host, Anthony Kinjemi. Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Kinjemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Anthony Kinjemi and Crescent City Retirement Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.